right, call this meeting to order. We'll begin with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, introduction of commissioners. I thought Chris wasn't going to be here, but I'm happy that he is. So I'll scratch that off the agenda. And, well, why don't we just go around the room? So Ted can have a refresher course on names.
Jean Capper.
Cindy Von Beckler.
Dave Wallace.
Fiona Hunt.
Chris Ford. And Ted Aarons. Very good. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have minutes from June. Or
July.
July. You know. We didn't have any,
We skipped June, I think, didn't we?
well, we didn't have any business in September, and then we couldn't get a quorum in October, or, no,
Wait a minute.
no,
August and September we didn't meet.
okay, well, we didn't have any business in August, and we
No
couldn't,
quorum.
and we couldn't get a quorum in September. Okay. So that's why our minutes are so dated. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I think we already approved them.
How could we have? We haven't had a meeting,
What did we just do? Okay.
or a motion to approve?
I move, so move.
Support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes were approved as written. We'll give you that autograph. Public comment. Well, the audience is not showed up tonight. So we will, and I assume there's no one on the owl out there in TV
I'll
land.
double check, but no, I'm in.
So proud of myself for even remembering that fact. We don't have any new business. Moving on to old business. There's been a question about the terms of office of planning commissioners and whose term is, we think some of us may be up now. Well, we're not sure, and so Beata and I have been working with the clerk. And our current plan of attack is to try to find the oath book.
I don't know if you got your email or not, but
Did you get information?
I found back from 2018.
Oh,
So, 3 of us are 2026. I'm the only one that's still on the board from here, but depending on who you took over, you can trace it back and see when your term is up. I 2026 at this point is all the 2-year terms. And then there's 3-year terms, and those would be in 2027.
well,
They should have gotten renewed last year. I just wrote it down here. This is supposed to be 2024. So 3-year terms is 2027, 2-year terms is 2026, but I don't know if we've done anything since 2018 to actually like renew people.
well, I think the oath book will be our best source of information. Because that, I believe the oath form has when it's such and such a date. So,
Yeah. I joined in 2020, 2021 maybe?
you're wearing a mask probably?
Do you know were you replacing someone in the middle of a term or? Right, yeah, well, this was in
That's pretty
2018. I think this is the last time that we actually did anything with this.
All I know is that I ran for trustee and didn't make it, and the next day I got called and asked to be on the planning commission.
But you think it was 2020?
That's when the election was, yeah.
Yeah,
And I believe David Gleason filled Rob Johnson's unexpired term.
Okay,
And Ted, you just filled an open spot.
yeah, probably.
So when you took your oath, I don't know if it was a 2-year or a 3-year,
We'll figure it out.
we're getting there.
But it looked
Do
like,
you have any recollection?
No, I don't.
Okay, so that's
Yeah,
what
I came up with sometime in the fall, winter of 23. And I don't know if I was filling a term
Thanks.
or it was.
Yeah, I mean, between what we know and, but I haven't taken an oath, I don't think probably. 6
Right.
years.
5 years, I mean, I took the original one, but I haven't.
Right. I don't
I
recall.
don't think
ever-
you have to take an oath.
I don't recall
Just because
taking an
you're reappointed.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't,
Can't imagine.
that's a good question for near and far friends tomorrow, for our clerk.
Which is why,
Jennifer's speaking at near and far friends.
Oh, she-
Yeah,
yeah, I
About
don't know, I
election.
don't know if
about elections.
going back to the oath for placements, but anyway, we'll figure it out.
That is true, yeah, I don't think that will answer the question. It'll just say when we started.
We can start to narrow it down anyway.
We'll get there.
Did everybody get that? Cause I thought I sent it to everybody. Did you?
What?
No?
What is it?
It's just like, it was it showed the terms. A new computer and I'm not, it's not, okay.
But we don't know. You know, you're the only one on this list who's still here.
But at least we know in 2018, everybody was starting. I must like every 6 years, everybody must end at the same time.
Well, usually they stagger with 3-year terms.
Yeah. Yeah,
This
so that doesn't,
which is kind of odd too. It's got 2018 for every single one of them.
And you don't want everybody to expire.
You wouldn't
in the same
think.
year.
But you had
So-
a company to make copies of it?
Yeah,
Well, what,
there's, this one's kind of written on, but he's got.
2018 to 2011,
It's 2024, I'm sure, or
Or is it-
2021, I
or
mean.
is it 2008 to 2011?
No, because it's only 3 years. It was supposed to be 2021.
Jim Trout was,
18 to 21. This is just when your term ends.
oh, anyway, we gotta find the book.
Okay. Well, anyway, we got a little seed.
There was a request from the public about looking into what I call a dark sky ordinance, which refers to lighting conditions. And I looked through our ordinance and didn't, basically kind of says, well, lighting shouldn't be glaring, but it doesn't make any standards to it. I know the Portage Point Inn SUP makes reference to trying to adhere to dark sky lighting standards. Be the only standard they do adhere to. Sorry. And so the village just adopted an ordinance. And so when we first brought this up, it was suggested, well, why don't we look at the villages and try to mirror it? Since you could cross the street and be into the township, and we just soon have the ordinances kind of mesh. And I mentioned it at yesterday's township board meeting and got a lot of, well, what about this? What about this? And I didn't have answers because I didn't have the ordinance in front of me. But one of them was, I assumed that this would be more towards residential districts and commercial. What about ag?
Well, to answer your first question, it would be more towards non-residential.
Yeah.
Single family and 2-family would be exempt from it. It's really gonna regulate. It's difficult to regulate that. You really don't need to. It's kind of more designed towards non-residential uses. And then agriculture. Well, if it's a certified commercial operation for agriculture, they're exempt. You know, from the zoning, as long as they follow the general accepted management practices for agriculture, but I'd have to pull it up and see if there is, at the end of that ordinance, there is.
It says it's exempt, I mean, residential is exempt from this,
Mhm.
I believe.
Right, I was thinking more of the agriculture, I can't remember if there's anything in there about ag, but the village really doesn't have agriculture.
Is there a particular problem anywhere, someplace in the village?
Are they looking to exempt ag?
Well, Supervisor Meister brought it up because he said that he has a halogen light that shines 150-foot circle on his property, and I don't think that's really what the dark sky ordinance had intended.
Well, if you can, even in a residential area, I think we wrote the village's ordinance that if it can be determined that it is in fact glare, even for residential, you can take action on it. But you wouldn't have to necessarily you wouldn't require that the homes have all sharp cutoffs. Light fixtures and for like a single family home, because I think most single family homes probably have something similar to a carriage. Lights at the front door or on the garage, you know, you didn't want to step into that.
I light up my flag, you know, at the, I
Mhm.
don't know if you ever seen it. It's a pretty good size floodlight.
It says single family and two family residential lighting is exempt. Doesn't say anything about ag.
So, yeah, the village doesn't have it.
My neighbor asked me to turn it off when they party on the dock. Car,
Well, and
you know, which I do if they request.
there are, another thing they brought up is, should there be a time when your light gets shut off on a timer, like 11 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night, so that people don't have to have the light shining in their bedroom windows.
Yeah, there is a provision in there, that says all lighting except for, security lighting would need to be extinguished. I think it's by 11 PM.
That's in the bill, that's
It's in that,
non-residential. I mean, some people might want that lighting for safety. I mean,
were they thinking even like for, like, single family residential to extinguish that?
I mean, that's our decision. Where we would recommend applying it to.
No, but what were you saying you would question that? Were they with the,
I was questioning on agricultural land.
okay, both with the lighting being extinguished at a certain time?
No, whether the ordinance would apply to an agricultural property.
That's the first thing.
That was the first thing, and then the second one was somebody just brought up the idea that lighting should be, there should be some kind of a sunset law to it.
But was the person who brought that up also saying that there should be some type of sunset time on residential? Or was it just?
I think it was just in general.
Okay, okay.
So for the village, it's for commercial outdoor lighting fixtures. Have to be turned off between 11 PM and sunrise. Except for those used for security purposes. No, but that's not residential. I mean,
one could argue that some residential might consider security purposes as well.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
And
and
want to
Crescent
have-
Beach gets
want to
pretty
have a light.
dark at night, you know, where I live.
you know,
There's a lot of people going to the channel.
Mhm.
I don't think you're gonna wanna try and regulate
Mhm.
single family residential lighting. It'll be a nightmare.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, I looked at some other places, and they were like a paragraph, you know, and we've got already. If we adopt this, it's 1, 2, 3 pages, you know, versus a paragraph at some larger actual places, cities or townships, so. I think this is plenty, regulated.
Yeah, I mean, and there's, I
I
mean,
mean, certainly add ag as a non-exempt.
was that the purpose of the question, was to exempt ag?
Well,
You
I
certainly could.
didn't exactly understand the question anyway, because, you know, if you had existing lighting, the ordinance, a new ordinance wouldn't affect existing lighting anyway, so.
Right.
Um,
He had a light though, you said that.
he had, he,
Charge and he was concerned about that.
And now, okay, so we're talking about single family, it's like a single family residential use in an area zoned for agriculture. We're not talking about exempting agricultural uses.
I
No.
don't think,
no,
is that light in a resident?
it's in his yard, it shines over his front yard.
I gotcha. Okay, so again, that could be considered security if we,
Yeah, and it would be non-conforming anyway, even if they adopted the ordinance.
I mean, because it's existing.
You wanna just let it go?
I was just wondering, somebody mentioned the lighting at Langland, so
Yes.
so would that,
And I've seen other posts about what can we do about the lighting at, not referring to this community, but other communities. The lighting at the Township Hall that's greater than everybody else's and, it never goes out. And that would probably just be another exempt use. You know, someplace like Langdon Park, you don't wanna turn the lights out. You don't wanna make it attractive for,
But that's security. I mean, it allows for security.
Yeah.
So,
So are the lights at Langland, are they flood or are they directed downward?
I don't go there at night. Tell you the truth, I'm like.
I mean, if anything else, the village and both the townships should walk the talk.
Yeah,
You know, they'll tell everybody else that they have to, you know, follow.
there is something about land, and I wish I could, I do believe that that they are not tilted down, that there was the idea that that those were interrupted the night sky, the ones at Langland.
I mean, over time, I mean, he could replace those, or can they be angled down, or they just kind of, could they be angled like that, or they like this?
I think they're just like that.
and that may have been where the concern came from, because Langland Park is a nice place to go look at the evening sky.
Right.
And
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the news article, but tonight, you know, it's supposed to be a good night for Northern Lights.
mhm. So are we just gonna put this on hold and? I mean, because if we were to do anything, we'd have to send it to Tom Greer and have him review it and, you know, I'd just as soon not spend township money for something that we're kind of scratching our heads over and somewhat lukewarm on.
I don't, if it's lukewarm, forget it. You know,
Well, I mean, what are,
you don't need to burden.
what are some of the other comments from
That's
from
what I'm-
board members? I mean, do they think we should move forward? I mean, what I asked the village council is if we're looking at an ordinance amendment, is this what you want? You know, because, you know, don't send us down a path to do all this work and then say, okay, well, we really didn't want that anyway. You know, I mean, so are they somewhat supportive of it? Are they,
No, I don't think they really are.
they are, okay.
And,
Was it just Dave or, I mean, I wasn't at the meeting last night, so I don't know.
I don't think I got any other comments other than Dave's. And, I did mention, you know, that, I know Chris, you did a survey of the village to see
Yeah.
what issues there were in the village that would be affected by your proposed ordinance, and I think you told me
No, I mean, they were all, most of them were in compliance, except when I walked by the flowers. And I heard it. You know, even, Easy Mart, when I'm standing out on the sidewalk along Main Street measuring the foot candles. And even then, they were just under, 10 foot candles. For comparison purposes, like a full moon, like we had, was it a few days ago when it was really bright, that'll measure, I think, about 0.3 foot candles. So 10 it can be low, it can be bright. So when you look right at the light, or at the source, it can be bright, but if you kind of turn away and look, another way, a different direction, and it doesn't seem to be quite as bright as looking right at the source.
So you're feeling the board was not supportive based on Dave's comments?
I had the feeling that the board was didn't really give, anxious, agreement to moving forward with it.
I would comment that this is very relevant to the village because it is commercial.
Yep.
This is really 99% for commercial. And, so it's maybe not even as relevant to the township.
Well, the township has.
It has some, but,
Has Onekama Marine.
so it would apply to that. It would apply to commercial. It doesn't really apply to residential.
It would apply to
Not sure about
a new
it.
business like Shays if it ever opened.
Yeah. And then they may not have realized that really this is primarily focused on commercial.
So apply to the fairgrounds if
Yeah.
something ever happened there.
Yeah.
Unless the county was exempt.
Well, I was kind of thinking, future uses.
So maybe if they understood
Wishful thinking.
more what this would impact. That might help them.
Yeah.
So maybe clarify.
All right. Then I'm not going to suggest moving it on to Mr. Greer. And we'll just keep it in our back pocket we get we do a survey sometime and we hear about it. Maybe we'll revisit it.
And maybe address a little bit more residential, if,
And I think we'd have
unless
to
it's just commercial.
we'd have to see it's pretty hard to embrace a dark sky in a residential district. I mean, everybody's got their, cause even interior lighting is gonna disrupt
Mhm.
the flight of the birds. Mhm. So, okay, moving right along. Beata brought up, the accessory building ordinance, which is 1018. And some legality issues, and I'm gonna let Beata address this because she knows. She's been studying.
So did nobody get that email either this morning?
Are we taking,
Oh, yeah, I got it.
are we talking ADUs, accessory dwelling units, or are
Yeah.
we talking accessory buildings?
Well, dwelling,
Okay,
Okay,
isn't that 1018?
no, I think 1018 is the accessory, but remember, I think Jody brought up an inconsistency in the language.
All right, so let me find my stuff.
And what you
Well,
said was 10-8.
Yeah, you said 1018, get the one that we have now.
There's
Guest
10.
house or second dwelling on a parcel,
Yeah. This is the one that I was
Oh,
talking
okay.
about.
Okay,
and it does not allow it.
So it does not allow what?
Does not permit a second dwelling. What we have now does not. Correct?
this ordinance, the 1018 would allow.
Right,
Except
well,
as stated in this section.
Right.
It says, so I printed this to help as. I don't, can you guys share or?
I have it, I can just look at it.
You have it on your
You just-
computer?
Yeah,
That's,
Printed it, okay.
yeah, I didn't put it in color, which I didn't realize till just now.
Wasn't that what this is? I have it on my computer too.
Yeah, I like color.
this was Mary Riley's comments.
Yes,
Yes.
So I took her comments and I inserted them into the ordinance, and if we could just maybe go through it one at a time.
Sure.
So she had commented, I'm gonna actually skip ahead, about, so language restricting the use of a home that discriminates based on a protected class such as race, religion, age, weight, political beliefs, et cetera, may be subject to violations of the Civil Rights Act from an enforcement perspective. It could pose a challenging. And so this first highlighted, I wasn't sure if that was something that would apply to that comment she made, recognizing the need for others to take residence near their home or family, but in separate living quarters. Is that okay? That's just something that maybe we should think about, whether that's needed or not. Let me just keep going through everything and then circle back.
Can I just, ask maybe if we start at the 10,000 foot level?
Yeah,
What's the goal of accessory dwelling unit? Because on a couple of those articles, it talked about, what accessory dwelling units can accomplish. It talks about increased housing options. We've been talking about affordable or workforce housing, age in place, sustainable development. I mean, are there also
all of them.
all those that we want to accomplish?
Yeah, and I feel like when we initially did this, we were thinking more about age in place and not necessarily about density and workplace housing, but those are all really important things that are, becoming more and more important. And the family reference, I feel like, is,
Does it matter? Would it be okay if they're unrelated individuals, but they're more, long-term rentals as opposed to short-term rentals? If you want, if the intent is to provide another housing opportunity, why wouldn't accessory dwelling units say maybe they have a square footage between 600 to 800 feet in floor area that would allow somebody or a young couple to move into the area at an affordable rent and then, work and then hopefully then save up at some point to, to purchase a home and be a permanent resident. When I was in college, we moved into a duplex and the lady next door at the time we moved in, I think was 88 years old. Her and her husband built that back in the 60s because he was a chemist at the Upjohn Company. But they built it specifically knowing that as they age in place, they wanted somebody living next door that could actually then kind of look out for them and then help them. So when we moved in, our chore, we got both stalls of the garage because she didn't have a car. But then, then I said, okay, then we'll do the snow removal and then we'll cut the grass. So we were there to help her out as she aged in place. And it worked out really well. And I could see something like that happening here, especially as, if you've looked at the demographics for the area lately, the majority of the people here are 55 plus. We're all it'd be nice to be able to, age in place. But it's gonna be more difficult to age in place, as you get older, if it's a completely detached unit like the ordinance requires today.
so,
But I guess my thought is, would it be worthwhile just to, start from scratch?
maybe we go through it
Mhm.
and then revisit that.
Well, that's a good idea.
In number 3, she had a question about why 800 square feet, and I will put an aside here that the one in Beulah is 600, it's smaller. But I know we probably went with that because that's our minimum for primary building. And she was asking me, is it based on anything particular, and to articulate the basis, so I just added must meet the minimum floor area requirements in Article 3705G, and it could be period right there, or you could leave all the rest of that on there. I don't know normally how things are written if you are redundant from one to the other, but that just includes if we keep that floor space, maybe we change that, but that's why it was 800. 4 was good, 5 was good. Going to number 6, the distance between the principal dwelling or use of the and secondary dwelling is twice the required side yard setback. And so this brings up, I noticed in the Beulah that they can have over garage or attached. And we are saying that that's not something we do, and I don't recall why we did that, but I was just wondering if anyone recalled the reasoning for needing to have double the distance between the two buildings. I know when this started, it was because of a carriage house that was being built out in your neck of the woods, I think. Red Park, is that what it's called? Somewhere in that area, someone wanted to build a carriage house, but is that something that we need to keep in there? Was there a good reason for not allowing a secondary dwelling to be above a garage or attached to a house?
I'd suggest that, you know, we expand it to allow it to be either
Yeah.
detached, or detached, the loft above a garage, or attached, or even, if someone's got a lower level walkout, they could,
Mhm.
use that as an ADU.
So continuing to B, 7B, I guess. The language that says the ZBA cannot grant a variance for X, Y, and Z related to guest homes is unconventional compared to other ordinances. Because this states that they shall not grant a variance to construction of a secondary dwelling, and so she's saying the ZBA should be able to grant a variance when there's evidence of practical difficulty for any dimensional regulation in the ordinance. And so that's something that could be struck. And then the next one is language restricting the use of a home that discriminates based on a protected class. I read that earlier. And that's referring to, limited to adult members of the extended family, the owner of the principal dwelling. And then I didn't address, I guess, the 8 weeks in the calendar year. I'm not sure how we would even monitor that, but, and then if you go to the next one, talking about, thank you, this was your heads up about, homestead tax purposes. She did say that that's not appropriate to be in an ordinance. So at the end of the day, she's got a key question to consider for the board is, what is the government interest in the regulation that limits guest dwellings to adults? What governmental interest is the regulation trying to further? Is it supported by the master plan? And I had specifically asked her about the adult part of it to start with. For example, was there something about only having adults in the dwelling that helped to get the regulation adopted? Is it that they didn't want larger groups in the house, like a family of 4, noise, overcrowding? Did they not want STR?
Short-term rental.
Was it that I have a hard time with acronyms. Was it that they wanted opportunity for just 1 or 2 older adults, which I think kind of was part of it. It was a mix between this carriage house and having the aging in place. So that's relative to number 2 above. And then at the end, I've got guest houses cannot be used as long-term rental properties. And I wasn't sure if we are able to regulate that? It says that we are. Previous rental of any kind was prohibited. That's actually in the ordinance.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And then it goes on to say these are allowed for guests and for extended family living quarters, mother-in-law, et cetera, housing, CA above. And again, that yellow highlighted is again going back to, is that a protected class? So I've just got to know, confirm that we're in our rights to limit the usage or strike that. And then is the reference to guests of family considered discriminatory? So those were my comments. And then I had just printed out the one that was G that was referred to on the front page, is that second page. Where she said you really need to document what you're referring to, under 1018.3, I guess, A3. Thoughts?
Well, the situation that Chris was talking about still wouldn't be allowed. The way this is written.
No,
Not unless you removed the part about twice the setback, required yard setback.
No, I'm talking about the long-term rental, I mean.
Oh, right.
This was, the duplex, they were renting part of the unit.
That would be a question whether or not we are even allowed to limit that. How, you know,
well, it sounds like this ordinance was, the intent was originally just to allow like family members or relatives to stay there on a temporary basis. Because it says,
or adults only year round.
then the one, those guest houses cannot be used as long-term rental properties.
Well, if they're family, they're not renting theoretically, I think it seemed thought.
Or that was,
Yeah, I would, I want that.
so. So I guess the question I had was, is there a desire to expand? You know, to open it up. One, more options for construction. And then for, you know, people that are, you know, outside of the immediate, maybe not even immediate, but just outside of the family.
I think we need to determine whether it's even legal to say that only the family can live there personally. I think that was part of, she pretty much said that the language that has to do with protected class is just race, you know, way, political beliefs, et cetera, including family, adult only.
Well, I'm sure the township has a definition of family. So what is the definition of family? Because they could say that it's my brothers,
When we-
uncles, brothers, sisters, mothers, you know.
When we took our class, I recall specifically Mary saying that we don't tell people what they do with their property, we just tell them how they can build it, and this is like getting into something that's not necessarily what our role is, as far as saying who can stay there and how long they can stay, and so that maybe we just need to find out what's legal and what's not legal.
And, you know,
Come up with something we like and have him look at it.
You know, beyond I'm just thinking of examples and certainly, you know, having a mother-in-law quarters, if you know, there are stairs involved, that might be a problem, but if there aren't stairs involved, it might be perfect to have that separation. But there are also instances where you have a couple who are your friends and they'd really like to move up to Portage Lake. And they'd like to build a house. And they'd like to be here while the house is being built, but they don't have anywhere to live. But it just so happens that you just happen to have this little guest house and nobody's living there. And so they want to come and live there for a year. Well, so they can go watch them pound nails. And are we saying they can't do that? You can't do that?
I think this is saying that you have to be an adult to stay there, but again, going back to, I don't think that we are supposed to be saying, dictating what the usage is of the unit. We're just supposed to be saying, how do you build it? And then does that make sense?
well, I mean, to some extent, you can regulate the use based on the zoning district in terms of, you know, separating residential from industrial. But the township's definition of family is probably what 75% or more of the other communities' definition of a family. And so there's kind of two definitions. One is those that are related by blood, marriage, or adoption, and then the second one is a collective number of individuals domiciled together in one dwelling whose relationship is of a continuing, non-transient domestic character and who are cooking and living in a single nonprofit housekeeping unit. And then it goes on for some more, but so that basically says that you can't regulate, you know, if if you have unrelated individuals living in a housing unit as, and cooking and acting as a single household unit.
Like roommates.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, yeah, like.
It would, I mean, it doesn't,
Give me,
And my daughter has a roommate.
be a commune. I mean, theoretically.
Well, that's what Tasibo was. Can I make just a comment? I mean, I think, if you don't mind, like, from the 10,000 foot level, I think the zoning ordinance that we're dealing with is, the intent is single family residences. Okay, and so these were some exceptions, made to that, because if you start going into, higher density. And, there's an additional living unit above the garage. Now you're really talking about having things like duplexes, in a residential area that, for better or worse, have been intended to be for single families. However, that's.
you think that's why they wanted the separation? I mean,
The 20 feet is related to fire safety. And it's also, I think, related to this, maybe, I don't know how old this zoning ordinance is, but we don't want high density. So if your lot's not big enough to get 20-foot separation, you can't do it. And I think there's a number of reasons. But yeah, I think it would be a big switch, I think, for the community to say, let's really start moving towards higher density. I mean, it's called resort residential for a reason. But I'm not taking a position, I'm saying it's be a very big change.
well, they already can do it.
What?
This is an existing ordinance. They already can.
But it's quite, as you pointed out, it's quite restrictive. So it's.
So you're saying.
It's
just
being, I would say,
eliminating
the spirit of it, it's being discouraged, not encouraged, just because of the limitations on distances,
The
size.
distance.
Well, the size of the structure, the distance, the need for a family relationship. All those
I'd
things.
just like to know if that's legal, so.
Well, I think it is, because, Chris could comment, it's standard across the United States to have zoning that tries to restrict things to family units. And they may be conventional family units, or they might be communal cooking and cleaning arrangements, like my wife and I have.
I mean, it's ultimately, it's kind of a legal issue, but from my perspective, you trying to restrict it to only family members. And then they point out the definition of the township family. I think they're gonna lose.
Well, also the 18 or older. I just don't see how in any world that, are we gonna be policing that?
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it was.
Well, I would,
it was
personally, I would strike the age limit. I just think that's improper, but.
It's kind of what brought this
Yeah.
all up. And then the zoning thing you mentioned.
And we've got a master plan that says that we should consider, alternative housing to.
Well,
So
that's
they-
where I'm at. Times have changed and, if you have to spend $250,000 to get a starter home. To your point, maybe you get some young couples in here that can afford something like this. And or help out the person that's living there or.
Yeah, I think that they have their benefits. And I don't know how many people would actually build one.
Right.
And then,
There's that too.
And then, rent it out, but it is a way to, to get more rental units in here. The other question I would have is that can you prohibit them being used for short-term rental?
Well, theoretically, we could limit how many short-term rentals we allow. I don't think we've done that,
That's a whole nother ordinance.
but right, I
And
mean,
that's
theoretically,
not our ordinance. That's just it.
no,
It's not part of this book. Short-term rentals.
it's a police.
It's not a planning commission thing. It's.
Yeah.
Well, we're the ones that did it though. I mean, we developed it.
But we did it for the township board.
But that's a police, you're right, it's police power ordinance.
You leave it out of the zoning ordinance. and then-
Which honestly should apply to every property in the township without exception, but it's a different topic.
The point being, you could theoretically limit how many you gave out of those, which we never have. I don't even know if anybody actually signs up for that. And
Oh, yes.
good,
The deputy clerk.
didn't at
The
first.
deputy treasurer, has been entrusted with the short-term rental. Well, much different.
Maybe you could put language in here that says that, you know, people that are staying in this accessory dwelling unit must be more than
Registered.
30 days, because anything less than 30 days is considered a short.
Yeah, transient, and they, or you could say it needs to be registered as a short-term rental
But if the goal is to
house.
help with housing that's more affordable or attainable, then I think you kind of want to not allow them to use them for short-term rentals.
Mhm.
The temptation would be there, I'm sure.
I'll give you an example. I ran out my guest house to a couple who has relatives in the area. They come up for short term.
Mhm. I mean, that's another thing, and, people who just wanna visit.
Yeah, well, and I tell you, there are contractors that come into this area from pretty far away, like the ones that are doing my garage,
Mhm. They need a place to stay.
then they need a place to stay, yeah, because, yeah, they're coming from Midland area.
But I guess I think the idea of attainable housing, if you will. I don't see that becoming something that residential districts are gonna jump to. To me, attainable housing for the people who work in the service industries around here that sell us the pizza and the coffee and whatever, they need attainable housing that's on their own little parcel of land. Maybe smaller than our zoning ordinance allows, and with a shared well and with a shared septic system that becomes a sewer, if it's more than one residence. And it's a little cluster housing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, because that's certainly gonna add cost to anybody who would want to do a separate unit. Separate standalone unit would be, your well and your septic system that goes with it. Unless they can, I mean, because that's gonna add a fair amount of expense unless they can utilize what's already existing.
I would also comment that while sounds wonderful, we know we have a septic issue and it's just not a reality right now that we could, is it, unless they put in their own septic?
You'd have to find it. I mean, my little dream out there is you find, I don't know how many acres it would take, 7 to 10. And you carve out these smaller parcels, much like the city does, that are 6,000 square feet. And you put a little 600 square foot footprint on that lot. Probably don't have a garage, unless they wanna, maybe they can get a carport to go next to it. Shared well, shared septic. And suddenly, instead of maybe spending 230,000, maybe 180. I don't know.
That's what I'm paying for my garage.
Well, what are we thinking?
So because of my schedule today, I did not see this when you emailed it earlier. So first time I looked at it was about an hour and a
Yeah, I
half before the meeting. And the email was talking more about the legality of this. And now I think this discussion is taking this document beyond the legality. It's now saying, hey, wait a minute, what if we use this instead for addressing affordable housing? And I mean, I'm using my words, but so I mean, as to the question of legality, my belief, based on previous experience, is it can restrict the status of who uses that property, which it does. If we're now gonna discuss, should we change this ordinance to do other things? I would want more time to read this. Cause I didn't think that's what the discussion was gonna be.
It's just kind of,
We digressed.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm
Big
just
time.
saying, so now to say, what about it? I'm like, okay, this has gone totally different than what the agenda said.
And so do we wanna continue to revisit it, or do we just wanna address the legality?
I mean, I think if it's the legality, it's just probably have to forward it on to the township attorney. They're gonna have the final say, although I would think that when this ordinance got adopted, it would have been, it was reviewed and approved by the township attorney. Or maybe it was somebody different back then than it is today in terms of.
No, it still would have been Tom.
Okay.
The case law changed on the, I mean, the provision on the, you lose your homestead exemption. I mean, that was actually based on an IRS rule that the Michigan Court of Appeals said was irrelevant. It's Rentschler v. Melrose Township. And there's been a lot of cases. So I think, you know, the advice you got from Michigan Township Association.
Yeah, and she also said,
Yeah.
talk to your attorney, just so you know.
I think it'd be helpful to people to have a footnote to say, renting your property could impact your principal residence exemption, just leave it at that, but
Mhm.
I'd take that out. I'd take out the age limit, because like you pointed out, like, you know, somebody, you know, with their 12-year-old needs to live with you. I mean, there's no problem with that. So, that's-
We can always revisit the global,
Mhm.
but maybe just work on the specific legalities right now.
Mhm.
It's getting to be the end of the year here. I
So-
can redo it,
You wanna condense it
Yeah.
into the pieces, parts that
yeah,
you want to address?
and I think the
Legally.
age, the adult only, and the zoning, right, those are kind of the two main things. Or not zoning, the homestead. Right.
But call it principal residence exemption, because that's, homestead actually refers, they're used interchangeably, but they shouldn't.
That sound,
Mhm.
Jean? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Deanna.
Yes, thank you for all the work.
I might vet that again, yeah, so, yes, so we basically focus on the things that originally. And we can address short-term rental and all that kind of stuff down the road. And, you know, whether we wanna have a joint or over a garage, okay.
And sort of, since we've been talking about affordable housing, there was a question about affordable housing in the master plan.
Just that ensuring that the master plan addressed it, because the law, they added that to the law last October, I think. It's about a year ago, saying that master plans needed to address affordable housing.
We addressed it and said we supported it, we didn't have a plan to fix it. But, if anybody does,
Yeah. It's- You know, I think people are really looking for, you know, places for employment. You know, and if you're to do, more affordable housing in this area, I mean, the old adage, you know, build it, they will come. Or would it be better served being more in a larger area, like closer to the city of Manistee, would people want to commute? you know, for employment opportunities. I mean, you got the casino that's not far from here.
It'll be interesting to see what that new apartment
Yeah.
complex does.
It's huge, and
The one by the hospital?
School?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One on the old
Kennedy.
Kennedy
Yeah.
School.
and John said that was just like 50% of what's proposed, so it's like phase.
It's like, it's supposed to be like 430 units or
Yeah,
something.
so.
Wow.
And some of it's market rentals and some of it's, there's a little bit of Section 8 in there, I think. And hope there's a quiet floor. It only comes up when I go to a motel. Okay. Once again, I'm just putting PPI on the agenda. It's kind of, what do we do? Do we do anything? I was out there today and there has been some progress on the ball field. I would say more progress on the ball field than there has been on the residents next door. But,
I mean, how many consent decrees?
I don't. I mean, I have my own ideas, but does anybody else have any direction they'd like to?
Do I recall Bob saying he was gonna come back to us with kind of like what he thought was going to be doable and,
Timeline-ish?
yeah, I thought we were
I
going to
thought-
have that
I
discussion.
thought you were gonna get together in a smaller group. Or we were, and he said he would join us, I think. To redo the SUP.
Well, he did come in June. And he talked about what's going on. You know, I guess I should contact him and just say, we have a memory of you bringing us kind of a plan going forward. And then we have something to react to. Cause I really don't know what he's,
I recall it being an issue that he's involved in a lawsuit and we have to go before the judge or something if we wanna change the SUP because he's not able to proceed with that because of the lawsuit without the permission of,
That was the statement made by the one lady.
okay.
But then he was also having discussions with the village about sanitary sewer. Does anybody know how that, was there
I
any
do.
progress there?
Wayne Miller sat here, I don't know, maybe a month ago and said that the meeting had never happened.
Right.
Oh,
you know, and
That's,
cause I had told Bob, I said, you know, you kind of have two last chance options. One would be to get the village to allow you to connect to them. Cause they're already at Little Eden, so. Some of the distance is taken care of. Then you just, and the other would be to take some of the ball field and put in a private sewer. And I know he's done the drawings for that. He's had his design firm, can't remember the name of them now.
I think as I recall, when he was here, once he solved the sewer problem, or, you know, came up with an alternative, then everything else would then should take off.
but they still don't want the gas dock or the marina. And or the boat barn in the lawsuit, is my understanding. Those are the things she said that they.
No, it's not the marina, it's the gas dock
Oh, the
and
easement.
the ramp.
Yeah,
which is
And
right
I
on
don't think
top of
that's
Ninth
changed,
Street.
so even if he gets the sewer, he isn't gonna be able to do those other things.
I'll make an observation on on the sewer problem. It's really everybody's problem in a way, but the sewer problem. He will not be able to put in a private sewer line, like say over to the ball field, without getting the permission of every single landowner abutting that right of way. So he might not know that, but
Oh, I don't doubt that for a minute, Dan.
yeah,
And-
okay. So it's just, I mean, there's just obstacles after obstacle without a public sewer.
And, you know, we just, if that was what he wanted to do, I think we'd have to say, look, Township residents, you've been saying all along, we really want the Portage Point Inn to succeed. We really would like it to be a place, and, you know, it's such a gem on the lake, and on and on and on.
But not in my backyard.
Well, it's not, it's still in your
I think
backyard.
a lot of people would agree to it. I mean, it's like, what's the problem, right? All underground, but it would just take one person to object, and you can't push that through eminent domain for a private sewer, so. I don't know. I mean, his other alternative would be where the existing septic field is or somewhere install like an on-site wastewater treatment. It would be very expensive.
Yeah, well,
And I don't know if, you know, is he gonna wanna do that if he doesn't get these other pieces that in theoretically financially support the payment for that, you know?
That's exactly right.
So where are we?
So Dave, what were you saying your thought? You said you had thoughts. What were your thoughts?
well, if we could, get Bob to agree that, you know, the cast dock and the boat ramp just aren't gonna happen. And the 50-foot boat barn, there will probably be some kind of structure there, but it's not gonna be a 50-foot boat barn. It's gonna be more or less a storage shed for riding lawnmowers, if you will, and snowplows. And then go to concerned citizens and say, look, these are things that were on the top of your concern list for filing this lawsuit. And they've gone away now. And would you be willing to drop the lawsuit and go through the motions of going to court and so which would allow Bob to put in his sheet pilings and get them off the ball field. And because right now his seawall is 8-foot pilings. And it's starting to wash out. And if it washes out, then you've really got a mess at Portage Point Inn. Because you know,
Is he getting
From a-
undermining on
Yeah.
it?
yeah, it doesn't, the pilings aren't deep enough.
Does it look like the property? I was over there on my bicycle. It looks like the sand in front of that seawall is sunk down like 4 feet.
Well,
So I'm glad it's not my footings.
but I mean, if we could get that process going, then suddenly the ball field is cleaned up. The community over in that area is, you know, they're happy. They're saying, hey, this looks nice, you know? Maybe the Parks and Rec will work with Bob and they'll do something, pickleball courts or something, I don't know. But, there's no question that the ball field is an eyesore that we don't need. And Bob's talked about he could take the steel away and use it elsewhere. But
So I hear what you're saying, but what's planning commission's role?
well,
I mean, I don't think we are the negotiator. And that's almost what I think I'm hearing you say.
I don't wanna negotiate it, I wanna convince Bob to, get CCPL into the room and smoke the peace pipe. Let them negotiate with each other. With each of them knowing what.
But is that planning commission's role, or is planning commission's role just making sure that Bob is adhering to the special use permit and doing what we need to in that regard?
Well, planning commission's role is,
Complicated because of
is-
the sewer
planning commission's role is land use.
and the lawsuit.
And so we're trying to find the highest and best use for that land and if it's got obstacles to make it happen, what suggestions can we make to make it go forward? But I do think would be important at this point to contact Bob and just say, we were expecting some kind of timeline game plan from you, and we haven't seen anything.
That's what I recall he was supposed to come back to us with.
Well, first complimenting him on getting rid of the floating dock off the ball field. I noticed that's gone. So,
Do you know if anybody's had any communication with him since he was here last?
Dave might have, but I haven't. So,
What are you thinking?
I don't know that I'm thinking anything. I was asking him his opinion and then trying to understand how Dave was viewing our role in this. But as I said, when we began, I believe that Bob, because we had talked about the special use permit, and he, as I recall, committed to coming back to us. And
I think I remember hearing about that.
he hasn't, and so I don't know how we move that forward.
well, I think we just say we talked about it at our last meeting and everyone's asking, you never return to us with anything. What about it?
But to your point, unless he negotiates something with concerned citizens, there's nothing he can do, right? Or no, there is.
All kinds of things you could.
Yeah.
The problem, that the hotel right now is that it's empty, is blight.
Mhm.
Okay, so, I mean, I don't know, if the township revoked the special use permit. Does that mean the condominiums also have to close? I mean, this is just gonna go on forever unless some leverage is applied. That's, what Cindy's saying is perfectly appropriate. I'm not sure what the planning commission's role is, other than to enforce the special use.
Right.
Well, and just so you know, Ted, I don't know, the marina is an accessory use to the Portage Point Inn. And so if Bob were to say, well, I can't, it's too much money to fix the hotel and that, and can't put in a kitchen because I can't get a sewer, and so I'm just gonna tear it all down. Well, you just lost your marina. Cause the Portage Point Inn has to exist for the marina to exist. And that was written into cause I'm sure in his mind, he might like to just stay in the marina business. Cause that's what he knows.
A lot of people refer to it as the Grand Hotel, the mini Grand Hotel.
Sure.
So I think we should bend over backwards to keep that hotel, I think it's a landmark on Portage Lake. But within reason.
Yeah, and I think the entire community feels that way. I think a lot of them unfortunately feel like they'd like to have the Portage Point Inn as it existed in 1957. And that ship has sailed.
The condos took all the wastewater capacity. I mean, that's what, and I wasn't even around when that happened, but that's.
So I'm gonna contact Bob.
You can say what I heard is it's the ball's in your court to contact him. Got it.
Anything else? Yeah, let's just slide in with public
I
comment.
appreciate that,
Well,
as late as it was.
you know, we.
One copy of that.
If you said bad things about Camp Placebo.
No, I didn't.
The terms.
I didn't know if I wanted everybody to have.
Well, I thought I emailed it to everybody, but yeah. There's really no answers on here, because I'm the only one that's on here that's still on the board, so. But at least it shows you what they thought the terms were for these people back in 2018.
Well, I'll save this and see if,
Was Jennifer working on that?
well, she should have the oath of office book in her possession.
So maybe she could figure out at least who took over for who.
Well, and when they took an oath of office. I don't,
I think only the new folks, you know.
well, all of us have at one time or another, right? Cause I don't even know when this started.
I do. It was 2019, I think, because it was on something that I went on a minute, so I was going through.
Okay,
June 2019, 28th, actually. It was for my daughter's birthday. She was born in 2019.
Let me make one further comment on
yes,
the
sir.
zoning laws. You know, when I first bought my home, before Hundenberg bought me through the yard, I'm putting in a dock. Really hard. She said, well, I was gonna drain Lake Michigan. Things like that.
Like level is down.
It is. And, you know, it ended up in court, it cost, I think it cost the township 50,000, cost me $30,000, and this was 94, 95. It was a lot of money back then, you know, to fight it. And everybody got their back up. And I wrote a letter and the township said they didn't receive it, then later on they apologized, said, yeah, they did get it. It just. We should, like a Portage Point, we should give them every break as much as possible, that's all I'm saying.
Agreed.
You know,
I support that.
so
Your place was Beckwith's,
backwards, not backwards, yeah. Gerald Ford's best man,
was he?
yes. I wrote Ford and he wrote him on the back. 'Cause I found a little prayer thing, funerals. And I had his name as a pallbearer on there, so I wrote him, he was retired at the time, and he wrote me a nice 2-page letter. It was interesting, but he went to Yale with Beckwith. So that's what he meant. And he was up there, you know, I don't know if you guys know Mary Carter, if you did know her. Carter's lived next to me. And she used to have GOP on the Green parties, you know, supposedly, and who was the governor at the time? Milliken, I think, yeah. And Ford was there. We think one bedroom is papered and presidential wallpapered. So we figure that's what Ford's doing.
Pretty good assumption.
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
If you'd like to make one.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second
It's a nice story, Terry.
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I got a lot of them from.
So Ford was Baptist Paul there, is that what?
His brother got,